Hello, I'm Lara, as you guys already know. Today I'm going to show you how to draw different cacti step by step. And you're going to want to have your paper like this. So this is called landscape mode, so it's horizontal. And that way we can fit our cacti and succulents on our paper. And you can draw with whatever material you have available at home. I'm going to be using my dry erase marker so it's easy for you guys to see. I do recommend using pencil so you can erase when you make some mistakes. But let's get started. We're going to draw our cacti and succulents in little planters. And I'm going to start on this left-hand side and draw my first planter, which is almost like a rectangle or a square, but it gets skinnier as it goes down. And it has a bottom. So you can see that it's wider at the top and gets skinnier or more narrow towards the bottom. And then I'm going to draw another straight horizontal line towards the top for the rest of the pot. And then I'm going to draw my first cactus, and I'm going to do a nice round oval shape. Excuse the squeakiness. And I'm going to have a little arm sticking out from this cactus. They call them arms. And it's going to be on the right-hand side. It's going to curve upwards. I'm going to round the top and bring it back down and attach it to the bottom. We're going to add some lines inside of our cactus for the texture. And you're going to start towards the top and curve it on down. And you're going to do that 2 more times. And we're following the direction of the outer line. It's a nice curved line. And then we're going to do the same thing in the arm, but we're only going to do 2 lines since it's smaller. Like that. You're going to want to add your spikes or your thorns on the outside with short, quick lines. And you want to do the same thing to the arm. This is why you don't want to touch cacti. And you also want to add some thorns to the inside lines where the ridges are. Like so. So we got our first cactus. Our second one, we're going to do another planter, like the same shape we just did, where it's wider at the top and gets more narrow towards the bottom. And you're going to close it off with a line and do another straight line at the top for the planter. This one is going to be our agave. So again, the agave is the one that kind of sticks out with spikes everywhere. And we're going to start this one with a long, kind of diagonal curved line. And it's going to be skinny at the top, so it's pointed, get wide in the center, and kind of get skinny again towards the bottom. And we're going to do this shape 4 more times to fill up our planter. So it gets pointed at the top, and it gets wide in the center, and then it gets skinny again as it reaches the planter. Another one. Points at the top, wide in the middle, and it gets skinny again towards the planter. So do we're gonna have 5 total. So I have 4. My 5th one is actually gonna be in the center. So you won't see the bottom part of it. Like that. So the agave plant doesn't have thorns, so we don't need to do those short, quick lines like we did with the other cactus. But we are going to prepare for our prickly pear plant with another pot, the same shape that we've been doing. So it's going to be wider at the top. Oh, drawing sideways is difficult, so my lines aren't as straight as they should be. That's okay. And then it's going to be a little closer together towards the bottom. And then finish it with a line. And then another straight horizontal line towards the top of our plant. So you can see how my pots progressively get worse as I get further away, since I can't see as well. That's okay. So for the prickly pear, it's made up of a bunch of like U shapes or upside down U shapes. And the first one is going to be the biggest one. So I'm going to make a big oval or U shape like that. And a bunch of these U shapes get stacked on top of each other, and it really grows that prickly pear plant. I'm going to add another U shape to the right of that. It's going to be a little smaller. And then I'm going to add a little bit of a skinnier U shape coming out of the top. So I'm stacking them. Another U shape, maybe a little wider. So I could keep building up with this if I wanted to, but I want to leave a little bit of room to add some of the flowers, and I don't want it to be too much taller than the rest of my plants. But prickly pears do have thorns. They're very small, so you have to be careful with those. And I'm going to add my thorns inside with short, quick lines. Some people like to do X's on the inside part to show the thorns if you want, or even V's, whatever you prefer. I just did both so you can see what it looks like. I'm adding really small V's inside of my prickly pear to show my thorns. But we also want to add thorns on the outside, just like we did with the first cactus, with short, quick lines all the way around the outside. So we're essentially creating our own coloring page, because we can add color to this once we're done. Another fun part about this is you can add some patterns to your pots. So maybe you want to add some zigzags to the first pot. And maybe you want to alternate colors. I'm using warmer colors because my cacti and succulents are going to be cool colors. So warm colors, again, are red, orange, and yellow. And a good way to remember that is thinking warm or hot, like the sun. And the sun is like, especially when the sun is setting, there's a lot of warm colors, reds, oranges, pinks, yellows. So I'm going to keep using my warm colors throughout my pots and maybe change up the patterns. So I'm going to use some red now, maybe some orange. And I'm doing it this way because it's a good contrast with those cool colors when I add those. So this is just going to be some polka dots. You can add whatever pattern you want. A pattern is just a repeated decorative design. And an easy way to do that is just picking a shape, like a circle, and repeating it over and over. But I am changing up my colors. And so then for maybe the last pot, I'm going to use some yellow again. And maybe I just want to do regular straight lines. And I'm leaving some gaps because I'm going to add another color, maybe orange again, in between each yellow line. And for the cacti, ideally I would have different shades of green, but since I'm using my dry erase marker, I don't. And I would color this a lighter green. And then I would color the next stripe or strip a darker green. And I'm going to show that with my blue. It's always a good idea to experiment with different shades of the same color, which you can achieve with paint by adding white or black to it. White will lighten the color, and black will darken the color, so you get different shades. So I'm just coloring in my cactus. For my agave, which is the center one, like the picture I showed earlier, it is like a bluish green color. So I'm going to just use my blue for that. Like so. And if I wasn't using dry erase markers, I would take more time with the coloring and make sure there aren't any white spaces showing. I'm going to make sure I try to stay inside the lines. And when you're coloring, it's best to color in the same direction of whatever shape you're filling in. But again, my coloring with dry erase markers isn't as good as it could be with other materials. And my prickly pear, I would choose a lighter green color. And I'm not going to fill it in completely because I'll lose my thorns in the center if I did. But if you use pencil, you can go over your lines with a black marker or Sharpie, something more permanent. And that way you can color over with whatever material you have available at home. But if you do go over your pencil lines with, say, a marker or Sharpie, it is best to erase whatever pencil lines are showing in case you didn't trace it perfectly, which is never possible. And on my prickly pear cactus, I do want to add some flowers. And like we saw in the picture, there are pink flowers that are blooming from them. And there's also yellow ones. At least that's what I've seen on my walks. So I'm just adding some very simple flowers coming out of my prickly pear. Like that. And that's how you draw some simple cacti and succulents. And again, try to take your time with the coloring. Coloring is a very therapeutic experience. It's a way to kind of shut off your thoughts and just let your hand do its thing. So yeah, fill in your coloring sheet and enjoy your mini cacti and succulent planters.